Hi, and welcome to the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast. I'm your host, Christian Klepp, and one of the founders of Einblick Consulting. Our goal is to share inspirational stories, tips, and insights from B2B marketers, digital entrepreneurs, and industry experts that will help you to think differently, succeed, and scale your business. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast. I'm your host, Christian Klepp. And today I'd like to welcome a guest onto the show who I met through the thriving Rev Genius community. She's not only an experienced B2B marketer, but is also well-versed in the fields of digital marketing, AI, and machine learning. So Joya Laha, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Christian.
All right. It's, Joya, it's really great to connect with you again. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So let's just get this party started. And please give our listeners a little bit of a background, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, once again, thanks for having me. I actually really enjoy your podcast. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Targeting B2B marketers. Um, so a little bit about myself. I am based out of Virginia Beach, and I work for a B2B IT service firm known as Intera IT. In our small but mighty marketing team. So the company itself is based out of San Jose, California, and we've been in business for about 20 years. And we provide IT services ranging from QA testing, mobility, cloud computing, big data, what have you. And funny enough, I actually did not start off my career in marketing. Actually, far from it. I majored in international relations and economics, so I actually completely different from marketing.
Wow.
And so I started off my career in that field in research and analysis, working for a think tank in Washington, D.C. And once I got married, my life changed, and I decided I wanted to switch my career path, and I found myself in marketing. So here I am.
Wow. What a story. And Joya, if I may say so, like when you said, when I got married, my life changed. Hopefully that was for the better, right?
Yes, yes, it's definitely for the better. I'm sure my husband will be listening. So yes, definitely for the better.
I'm sure he'll appreciate the comments, no doubt. No, that's an amazing story, and I'd like to jam on that a little bit further. I mean, in terms of your work, why don't you talk to us about a recent project, or it could even be a project in the past that you've been working on that's really motivated you.
Well, the B2B IT, I guess the IT service industry, as you probably know, it's fairly crowded.
Right.
So there's a number of companies that are just like us, and we're competing for the same type of target market, similar prospects, and what have you. So being part of the marketing team, I always find it fun. It's not really a specific project, just talking about my work as a whole. I find it fun to create different marketing campaigns and collaterals around our new and upcoming services. So it's a blast, and admittedly, it's a challenge to brainstorm and find innovative and different ways to cut through the noise and to engage with your target audience, with your consumer. And on a personal note, or I guess on my personal side, I like to admit that I like to write, which I haven't had much time for, but I like to research and write about new technology trends such as AI and machine learning, and I just love to learn all around.
And that's a good thing, right? Because I mean, if it's one thing that this this pandemic or even the crisis that it's leaving in its wake has taught us, it's that we have to continue to learn, right? It's continuously improve. Or the one keyword that I find myself using a lot these days is we have to also learn how to unlearn. As contradictory as that might sound, but
no, absolutely. I think, like you said, I think this pandemic has shown me that it's really important to be agile. We
Yeah.
can't really afford to be stagnant
Yeah.
and just have to, as cliche as it sounds, go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Ride out the storm, and hopefully in the process we thrive and become better, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. And you brought it up earlier, so I'd like to focus on that a little bit more. So it's the topic of today's discussion, right? So
Yes.
it's something that you're obviously not just extremely passionate about, as you've rightfully alluded to, but you're also, I'm going to say, a subject matter expert in this area,
Oh,
right? So,
that's too kind.
oh, but it's true. So it's on the topic of artificial intelligence. So,
Yes.
talk to us a little bit about that and how you believe AI has impacted specifically B2B marketing.
Yeah, sure. So before I talk about how AI, in particular, has impacted B2B marketing, I just wanted to take a step back and talk about how artificial intelligence is impacting marketing as a whole. I think it's
Sure.
important to understand. So,
Fair enough.
when you look at artificial intelligence, there's actually a number of ways that it can create value. So, namely, it can help reduce costs, it can help in increasing revenue, and depending on the organization, artificial intelligence can help create new lines of businesses. So there's a wide range of opportunities.
Hmm.
So artificial intelligence, especially machine learning, it's not only helpful when it comes to automating processes that might be a bit tedious and time consuming to do manually, but it can help detect patterns using whatever data you have at hand and even historical data to predict future behaviors. So, as a marketer, this is really important. So,
Yeah.
when you put yourself in the shoes of a consumer today, it's a bit overwhelming. You have a ton of choices when it comes to products and
Mhm.
services, and not only that, you can buy whatever you want when you want.
Right.
So, as a marketer, it's overwhelming. It's almost like you have to be this fortune teller
Hmm.
where you have to predict a consumer's future buying and spending habits.
Hmm.
So this is really where AI can help predicting these future buying habits and then at scale.
Hmm.
So when you look at B2B marketing, going back to that, admittedly, AI hasn't made a as big an impact in B2B marketing when you compare it to B2C marketing, but
Right.
it is getting there. And just as in B2C marketing, B2B marketers can use a number of AI based tools and algorithms to this is just a very high level view, but
No
they
problem.
can use these tools and algorithms to use whatever data that they have to help improve and personalize their marketing strategies.
Right. Wow. Let me say
that's
that
a
again. Wow.
that's a mouthful.
No, but those are such incredible insights, and thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, you brought up so many good points, which are, I think, not just apt for the current situation, but even just moving forward. Because I mean, as you've described in the past couple of minutes,
Yeah,
um, AI and the advancement of this type of technology has actually, if I may use this term, revolutionized the way that we work. Right? I
right.
mean, like, we don't even have to go that far back. Let's just go back 10 or 15 years, right? I mean,
Yeah,
some of the things that we're doing in 2020, I mean, they were probably even back then just unthinkable. And it's taken everything that we do as marketers, to a different level, and it's helped us to not just scale up what we're doing, but it's also helped to make the work more efficient. And I think, to one of the other points you made, predictable,
exactly.
right?
And whether we recognize it or not, almost all of us we interact with some form of AI almost every day, whether
Yes.
it's a voice assistant or when you look at Amazon
Mm.
with their product recommendation engine, it's based on your buying habits. They will
Yes.
recommend products and what have you based on what you've bought in the past. So
Mhm.
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. And I think you also brought up a good point about the about future predictions, and we're gonna talk about that later on in the conversation. But
Sure.
one of the things, and I think this next question is going to be it's probably going to lead to a pretty fun discussion, at least for you. Is like,
Yeah.
what do you think are some of the most common misconceptions that people have about AI? I mean, are the machines going to rise up and take over the world, or like?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely I think a common fear.
Hmm.
I think that when a lot of us think of artificial intelligence, yes, we do think of Terminator, Skynet, that the rise of machines. And
Right.
I'm not saying that this fear is unjustified, but
Hmm.
we actually really haven't gotten to this point yet.
Hmm.
Actually, it's far from it. So, um, depending on the time, but artificial intelligence as a whole can be divided into a number of categories. So,
Okay.
the AI that we actually see around us, the AI that we interact with, it's actually known as artificial narrow intelligence or quote unquote weak AI.
Okay.
So this type of AI actually it's performed it's programmed to perform a very singular task. So
Hmm.
it could be checking the weather or performing a math calculation. So
Hmm.
these systems are out they work in a very narrow set of limitations or
Hmm.
constraints. So they don't. So it's not advanced enough to really mimic or replicate human intelligence. So it
Right.
seems smart, but it's not there yet.
Hmm.
Human cognition, how the brain thinks is actually a very complex tool. It's
Hmm.
complex, and we haven't really. I don't think we've really gotten there yet. So there's other types of um, AI, such as artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence, but we haven't reached this point. It's a very hypothetical scenario where AI systems can mimic, can think, can act, can learn like a human, but we
Hmm.
really haven't gotten to that point yet.
Right.
So that's I think one misconception. Another misconception, again, I don't know if I would call it that, but it's more of a fear,
Hmm.
is that, as AI continues to play this increased role in our lives and changing industries across the board, the question arises, what does this mean for jobs?
Right.
So there's this belief that AI will take a number of jobs away from humans. And
Hmm.
again, I'm not saying that it's unjustified,
Yeah.
but AI, I think as mentioned before, it's helpful when it comes to automating different processes. So it is possible and probably likely that I can't find a good word for this, but like the low skilled jobs,
Hmm.
they may become redundant.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, you can look at AI as an opportunity. It can help us and businesses alike to help better perform in our jobs. So it can help
Hmm.
marketers, um, improve
Yeah.
what have you. So I think it's just a matter of how you look at it. But I think these two, the jobs and the rise of the machines, I think they're the
Yeah.
some of the biggest misconceptions.
No, I mean, like, thanks so much for breaking that down. And I believe, like, to your second point, and we had this discussion, I think, like a few weeks back, but it's about like, the ability of AI to, take away these mundane or monotonous, this mundane or monotonous work rather, from
Right.
people, right? So, for example, data entry, right? So
Yes.
let's say that the machine is able to take that away, and so people can then, it frees up a person's time or capacity to work on something that's a little bit more, I would say, constructive, and it's not like busy work, like say for example,
Right.
right?
No, yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
I think like you said, I think
Mhm.
it's really a matter of how you see artificial intelligence because
Yeah.
yeah, I think some of our jobs we may have some processes that can be automated, but it frees your time to do other to focus on other areas of your job.
Right. Other
So,
tasks. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's a bit. It's also like I think perhaps one point that speaks in favor of artificial intelligence is like productivity enhancement, right? So
yes, I think that's a
great.
great way of putting it.
Hmm. All right. The next question is going to be one of those like, okay, short of stating the obvious, but like the current crisis has turned the world upside down. It's
Yeah,
disrupted industries across the global economy. I mean, everybody's hurting, at this stage. But on the from a more constructive perspective, we've also seen, something positive coming out of all of this, in terms of the innovation. And I suppose AI is probably one of those positive attributes, right?
right.
So with that said, what role do you believe AI is going to play in improving the overall performance of, say, B2B marketing within organizations?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think that we can agree with this current pandemic. We are in this era of the new normal.
Hmm.
So, certain processes, methods, the way we normally conduct business has changed. It's
Yes.
it's it's a bit different to what we've been used to in the past. And I think I was looking into this, and I think there is a school of thought that believes that with COVID-19, the adoption of AI technology in B2B marketing will actually accelerate.
Right.
And I think I think this is something worth seeing whether this will happen.
Hmm.
But I think for businesses as a whole, pre-COVID, during COVID, it's really important. The key priority is that you want to focus on retaining clients.
Yes.
And a key area, no matter what business you are in, you want to provide that absolutely stellar customer experience. And
Mm.
even customer service is so important.
Hmm.
So, that being said, for example, chatbots can come into play because it gives businesses that ability, a way to interact with their customers around the clock,
Right.
24/7.
Hmm.
And so artificial intelligence, one way is it can help with streamlining communications and where marketers can get a better insight in predicting, again, that consumer behavior and patterns.
Mm.
I think another area artificial intelligence can help with is that account based marketing,
Right.
where, again, I mean, I feel like it's a bit repetitive, but AI can analyze data, and inform marketers which accounts have the greatest probability in purchasing a product or service.
Hmm.
So I think, as mentioned before, I think during this time, again, it's important for businesses they want to retain their current customer base. Of course, we want to obtain new customers and prospects. But I think if you can offer personalized customer experiences and content with AI and machine learning, there's nothing like it.
Exactly. And I mean, you brought up some really great points, and they also kind of are correlated to, these future trends or predictions, which we're going to talk about later on. But I think one thing that you really brought up, which I believe is really like extremely useful for marketers, is like, it's in terms of like being able to analyze the data so that you identify commonalities or patterns, that
Exactly.
will enhance. Maybe predictability is not necessarily the right word, but it will help marketers to plan ahead in a more
Right.
accurate manner, right? So
Yes.
because you have that information, you have that data about the target market, about the consumers, you see how they behave, you see how they interact with products and services and so forth, and you can see all of that online through all this data that's collected by AI,
Exactly. You nailed it.
right?
Yep.
Hey, it's Christian Klepp here. We'll get back to the episode in a second, but first, is your brand struggling to cut through the noise? Are you trying to find more effective ways to reach your target audience and boost sales? Are you trying to pivot your business? If so, book a call with Einblick Consulting. Our experienced consultants will work with you to help your B2B business to succeed and scale. Go to www.einblick.co for more information. This is a topic, I guess, which I've been talking about with many many marketers nowadays, and in
Yeah.
fact, dare I say, salespeople too. So there's many out there that believe that true success within organizations, can only be achieved if there's greater alignment between sales and marketing. So I've
Right.
had some people on both, in both camps that don't necessarily agree with that, but I would say that the vast majority believes that yes, there should be an alignment, right?
Right.
Um, so, in your opinion, how do you think AI could play an instrumental role in making this alignment a reality and not something that people just talk about in a meeting room or in this case a virtual meeting room?
Yeah, so I think we're in agreement that you can see that there is sometimes a bit of a misalignment between sales and marketing in
Yeah.
general.
Mhm.
And it's a bit common. So
Yeah.
you do see that there are organizations where sales and marketing they act as completely separate entities,
Mm.
functions, and sometimes there's this lack of communication which at the end of the day it hurts the organization and the bottom line
Yeah.
as a whole. So I think that when you bring artificial intelligence into the mix,
Mm.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for it to help bridge that gap
Right.
between sales and marketing because after all the end goal is you want to improve revenue,
Mhm.
that bottom line for your organization.
Exactly.
So I think that one of the biggest ways that AI can help in closing that gap, or at least narrowing that gap,
Mm.
is that um, it can help analyze. I think it can help marketers and sales teams analyze and agree on qualified leads
Mm.
and accounts from the beginning. So when you bring in, say, predictive analytics,
Mhm.
and there's various AI algorithms out there, it makes it easier for marketing and sales to really look at those leads that they have and determine where they are in the buying process. And
Mhm.
in B2B marketing or B2B companies, that funnel is a bit longer
Yeah.
than B2C.
Yes.
So with the knowledge that they have, they can identify those customers that are most likely to convert. So
Mm.
it cuts down that time, and you can really target the ones that are probably have the greater chance of converting.
Mm.
Um, and I think another area where sales and marketing can be aligned, and I'll touch upon this later, is that
Yeah.
personalized messaging.
Mhm.
So there's a ton of AI predictive content tools out there that can really help marketers come up with highly personalized content and messaging, and
Yeah.
which in turn can help the sales team engage with their prospects and current customers. So I think we've touched upon this before, but
Mm.
AI, it can really help streamline the processes,
Yeah.
and hopefully it can help enhance the cooperation between the marketing and sales team.
Mhm. Mhm. You know what? I think you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. No, great points, all of them. And I think you touched upon something which somebody else I interviewed a couple of weeks ago also mentioned, and in fact, it leads back to making marketing people accountable for a part of the revenue, right? So
Right,
they have their own KPIs that they have to answer to. Um, which are probably going to be a bit different from like the KPIs of the salespeople, but
yeah,
they are ways to measure results nevertheless, right?
right,
So, but that being said, AI will probably help that process of like and we all understand that there's certain aspects of marketing that you can't measure, not in quantifiable terms anyway, but
right, right.
but the ones that you can measure, perhaps AI can help support that, right? Like it
Exactly.
acts as that support or that enablement mechanism, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Great. So now we're gonna take out the AI crystal ball
Okay.
and start talking about future trends. But before I do that,
Yeah.
um, let me just discuss these these findings that that I found in this article. So there's an article that was written by a company, interesting name, nogood.io. So the article basically talks about how it is estimated that 60% of companies will be using artificial intelligence for driving digital revenue in 2020. So I
Mhm.
imagine that this number probably has increased by now,
Right.
and it will probably also increase, as we go into 2021, right? But the
Yeah.
article also goes on to highlight that there are some key marketing trends in terms of AI. So the trends are quite exhaustive. I've just pulled out three. Okay,
Mhm.
three basically that jumped out at me. So here they are. So the first one is, and you brought it up earlier, predictive analysis and forecasting will
Mhm.
continue to advance and develop. No surprises there. It's
Yeah.
extremely important. It's only, it's only appropriate that area continues to improve further, right?
Right.
Um, Point number two, audience hyper segment. So what that basically
Mhm.
means is that with audience hyper segment, it will enable the creation of hyper focused segmented groups based on similar data points. I mean,
Right.
wouldn't that be interesting for marketers if they were able to have this kind of like technology at their disposal? It
Yeah,
would it would
absolutely.
save them hours of doing the analysis
Yes.
themselves.
Yes.
um, and point number three, which you also touched on, is persona research and psychographics building. So
Mhm.
this is obviously not your average whiteboard or Google Doc based assumption, right?
Right.
So some pretty interesting insights there. But so just from your own experience and what you've researched and talked to people in the industry about, state your top five AI predictions that you think every B2B marketer should be paying attention to, and explain why.
So, yeah, I think the article, I think it does a really good job in covering a few of the trends like predictive analytics and forecasting.
Hmm.
So just to add on that,
Sure.
I touched upon it. I think one trend we've been seeing and we will continue to see is that personalization. And I think
Mm,
it's an important one because as the consumers of today, their preferences, their needs, their expectations, they're ever changing. So it's really a matter of how marketers, both B2B and B2C, can stay ahead of that curve and how they can predict future behaviors, future patterns.
right.
So there's this need, there's this demand for marketers, for B2B marketers to deliver these, like you said, hyper personalized marketing messages.
Mm,
And I think consumers, they will continue to gravitate towards brands that speak towards towards their preferences. And I think AI can help with this by boosting a company's ability to deliver that personalized consumer experience.
hmm.
Moving on, I think another trend will be that lead scoring. So I touched upon it,
Yeah.
talking about how AI or how marketing and sales can um, work together. And I think that, so lead scoring in a nutshell is basically when you rank a sales lead against another.
Mm,
And I think that as AI technology has become more advanced, this type of lead scoring will become more predictive and more precise. So again, it will help both the
right.
marketing and sales team.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is a trend, but just looking at data collection as a whole,
Yeah.
we have a lot of data from different sources that we work with, and the question arises is how do you make sense of what you have? How do you
Yeah.
make sense of your historical data? So again, by using say machine learning, by using AI algorithms, it it helps us or it will help us make sense of these patterns,
Mm,
and it will help marketers figure out how to use this data more efficiently and to their advantage.
yes.
Um, Another trend is, I would say, is content generation. Again,
Mm,
there's that need to deliver that hyper personalized content.
right.
So, a lot of these trends they really overlap. So again, using data analytics or
Mm,
predictive analytics, sorry.
Yeah.
when you analyze patterns and data, B2B marketers can get a better grasp of, okay, what are the topics that are generating buzz? What is the audience sentiment? And in turn, it can help them create that more personalized content at less time and at scale.
Hmm.
And the final trend that I would touch upon, and I think this will be interesting to see,
Hmm.
is that voice assistance. So I think voice commerce as a whole it's a rapidly growing segment.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of potential for B2B marketers to really take advantage of these voice assistants like Siri
Mm.
and also voice driven chatbots to, again, help elevate and enhance that customer experience and take it to the next level.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so I would be curious to see where that takes us.
Okay, so first of all, I hope that the listeners are taking notes because
That's a lengthy list. I apologize.
well, no, 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 please, 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 no, no apologies necessary. I mean, like, first of all, these are really incredibly interesting observations, and I think the way that you broke it down, fascinated me because I think what you were trying to do is you're trying to make sense of where each of these components fit into the overall AI ecosystem, if I'm going to use
Right.
that description, right? And there
Yeah.
was something else that you brought up earlier, which I thought was really interesting. Talking about how AI can help sales and marketing with leads. So it's not just, of course, to qualify or pre-qualify the lead, but also to rank the lead in order of priority in terms of like a potential business for the organization and in terms of potential revenue as well, right? Like for the foreseeable future, the different I guess you've got different attributes to measure that as well. So I thought that was incredibly interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, next question. I love this one because
Yeah.
I always get a different and a very passionate answer. So um, just think of these buzzwords:
Mhm.
conventional wisdom, commonly held beliefs, and you have them in every area of expertise, and
Right.
AI is no exception. So just think of that one, if you will, Joya. Think of that one belief or that commonly held belief about AI that you passionately disagree with, and explain why.
So I think when you look at artificial intelligence, we can agree it's a buzzword.
Yes.
We all hear it.
Yeah.
And so I think that one of the beliefs is that, some might feel that they can wave this magic wand
Mm.
and implement AI across the board in your organization just like that. And it doesn't really, I mean, people may disagree with me, but I don't feel like it necessarily works that way. And
Right.
while there are a lot of benefits in implementing an AI system or a product, I think AI does is not necessarily the right fit
Hmm.
for everyone for every organization. And I was reading a book on artificial intelligence, and I think they described it well. They pointed out that no organization should have an AI strategy as its overall plan. Instead, they should be using AI as a tool,
Mm.
as a way to get to their overall plan, if that
Right.
makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, just as it may not be a right or perfect fit for everyone,
Hmm.
but if one were to take those baby steps in implementing an AI strategy, I honestly would recommend just starting small.
Mm.
Identify that business goal, that objective that you want to accomplish, and then go from there. Because, like implementing any new technology, there are inherent risks, right?
Yes.
There's cost, there's a learning curve. So, for example, if you are a business and you say want to improve your customer service, you might just
Mhm.
want to start small and implement a chat bot if you
Right.
don't have one.
Hmm.
So, I think that's the belief. Like I don't want people to think that they should rush and invest all this money in AI and think that they can just improve all the processes across the board.
Mm,
I don't think it works like that. I think you need
right,
to start small and then go from there.
right,
It may not, and see where it leads you or
right.
takes you.
No, that's such great advice, Joya. So basically, it's like you start small, you test, see the results, iterate, and progressively add on if relevant. Right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely. Start
um,
small.
amazing, Joya. This has been such an excellent session. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. What's the best way for people out there to connect with you? It
Well, first of all, thank you again for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
was my pleasure.
Um, I would say the best way to get in touch with me would be through LinkedIn. So you
Hmm.
can find me through my name, Joya Scarlata.
Hmm.
And for those who are listening, I feel free to connect, and I would love to keep the conversation going. And I always love to learn. So, yeah, please connect. And I hope everyone, including you, Christian,
Yeah.
stays safe and healthy.
Thank you so much. And one other tip: if you're reaching out to Joy on LinkedIn, don't use a bot to chat with her. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I just had to throw that one in there. um, Joya, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing session. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and um, take care as well. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast. To learn more about what we do here at Einblick, please visit our website at www.einblick.co and be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player.